Hey, what's up, guys? This is your boy Charles. Charles in this world, tapping in. Listen, we are getting into this book. This is a really good book, man. It's called Original Gangsters by Ben Westhoff. You can check it out on Audible. Um, but we're going to check out the production of the Chronic. This is an interesting story, man. Let's go ahead and play it, and we'll come back with my reaction.
Snoop said. Dr. Dre had never been much of a weed smoker. Snoop hipped him to the Chronic and convinced him it should be the album's name. Though Dre never became a gung-ho enthusiast like his protege, he certainly got into the spirit of the thing at the time. Snoop Dogg came to visit and was like, "What up, cuz? Let me show you what this Chronic like." Dre rapped on his 2015 song, "It's All on Me."
Oh, yes.
Couldn't help myself, just had to dip into that chronic life. The signature sound. The young spitters were fired up. They had their verses written, and if those ran out, they could freestyle off the top of their heads. But it was Dre's job to make sense of the madness. Though only 27 at the time, when it came to making hit records, he was by now a savvy veteran. He recorded the first half of The Chronic at his Calabasas house, in a bedroom he'd converted into a studio.
Wow.
After the fire there, the rest was made at Solar's Galaxy Studios, where he made use of a state-of-the-art SSL console, a huge futuristic mixing board with pre-programmable flying faders, capable of automatically adjusting itself to your preferred settings.
Oh, yeah.
It was like the Starship.
I've always wondered what that was. You see, that's pretty cool. I used to go to a school that had those kind of consoles where the knobs were moved by itself. It's pretty cool.
Enterprise, Rhythm D said. Yet
Right.
it was still the pre-digital era, and so they edited on analog tapes, literally cutting them by hand.
Oh, wow.
You would mark the tape with a grease pencil and then use a razor blade, remembered Chris the Glove Taylor, an engineer and musician on the album. More than ever, Dre was finding inspiration in Parliament Funkadelic. He too employed the Moog synthesizer, creating both a chunky bass sound and, using different settings, the funky worm squeal. It's that enchanting high-pitched whine originally borrowed from the Ohio Players, which is the signature sound of the Chronic. It's melodic, it's somewhat terrifying, it instantly makes your ears prick up.
Huh.
On the album, Dre sampled or interpolated a half-dozen songs from either Parliament or Funkadelic, sister groups that were both led by George Clinton. Dre's genius was realizing how well they'd combine with rap lyrics. Part of the connection was emotional. P-Funk's psychedelic rock was cutting edge, but to those who grew up in the 70s, it was also warm and nostalgic, the soundtrack to backyard parties and civil rights rallies.
Right.
Combining it with the rough and tumble lyrics of gangsta rap, merged the hard and the soft, the light and the dark. The sound was called G-Funk, Gangsta
Hmm.
Funk, and it would come to dominate hip-hop for years. Snoop's present-day collaborator, the aforementioned Dom Funk, is a guitar-toting funk revivalist who
Wow.
loves the genre in the deepest fibers of his body. He told me that for many who grew up on Parliament Funkadelic, the sound came to symbolize a halcyon time before crack cocaine came along and decimated the inner city.
Right.
Dom Funk cites Funkadelic's 1979 song, Not Just Knee Deep, which Dre would later sample for a Tupac track, as almost like the end credits rolling on a certain era. Because before that, there wasn't crack, he went on. And then that era came, and a lot of people got lost after that. You can almost feel it in the music that something was on the horizon. It symbolizes happiness and sadness. That's what the funk is. Who invented G-Funk? Who invented G-Funk?
Hmm.
Though Dr. Dre is its most
George
famous
Clinton.
purveyor, the question is a matter of some debate. DJ Quick, who emerged in the early 90s, has long been injecting serious funk into his hip-hop, and was undoubtedly influential on Dre's sound. But it was Ruthless Group Above the Law that would directly claim credit for the G-Funk sound,
Wow.
offering as evidence their early 1993 sophomore album, Black Mafia Life. That work wasn't a massive hit like The Chronic, but the albums bear some clear similarities.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing But a G Thing echoes Above the Law's Never Missing a Beat, for example, while their Pimp Clinic and Dre's Let Me Ride both borrow from Parliament Funkadelic's take on the spiritual Swing Low, Sweet Chariot, Swing Down, Sweet Chariot, Stop, and Let
Let
Me
me
Ride.
ride.
Black Mafia Life was released about 2 months after The Chronic, but according to many accounts, was finished beforehand.
Why?
G-Funk was our style of music, said Above the Law collaborator Cocaine, adding that group producers Cold 187 and KMG the Illustrator forged the sound. During Dre's final months at Ruthless, he worked on NWA's Niggas for Life, while Cold 187 was simultaneously working on Black Mafia Life, and the pair often sounded each other out.
Wow.
It was during this period that he fashioned the G-Funk sound, Cold 187 told me. You're highly influenced by people that are around you. The only thing I can say is that G-Funk was my theory, he said.
Hmm?
Dre utilized it and made lots of money and commercialized it, and I never got credit for it. All I wanted was my credit. I
Wow.
don't think he was being malicious. I think he heard a hot sound, and then he used it.
Mm.
Many agree with this version of events, including Eazy-E. Dre stole that style, he
Mm.
told Phyllis Pollock. Dre stole stuff from Above the Law, Black Mafia Life's Never Missing a Beat. NWA promoter Doug Young agreed that Above the Law had the sound first. But Dre, he added, deserves credit for turning G-Funk into the powerhouse it became.
Wow.
When you listen to that stuff to this day, it still holds up because of the sonics of the production, he said. The dispute caused tension between Ruthless and Death Row, following the Chronic's release. In February 1993, at an industry event called the Urban Network Power Jam held at the Marriott Hotel near LAX,
Mm-hmm.
Cold 187 angrily approached Warren G., who had worked closely with Dr. Dre on The Chronic.
Wow.
Warren had also previously stayed, for a time, at Cold 187's crash pad in
Really?
Colton, California, along with members of Above the Law. The pair had previously been friendly, but now there was tension in the air.
Mm-mm.
That's fucked up how motherfuckers just integrated our style into they shit and created The Chronic, Cold 187 said to Warren G., in the former's recollection. I ain't got nothing to do with that. That's between you and Dre, Warren responded.
Mm.
Wait a minute, man. I'll let you stay at my house. I'll let you be a part of my family, and you treat me like this, said Cold 187. If you ain't got nothing to do with that, you ain't got nothing to do with me no more.
Wow.
Warren was accompanied by fellow Death Row affiliates, Snoop Dogg, Lil Half Dead, and others.
What happened?
Cold 187 was backed by artists including Eazy-E and an artist Eazy was recruiting at the time, Tupac Shakur. They'd been linked up through Atron Gregory, who managed Tupac and was NWA's road manager. The camps got to barking at each other, and before long, everyone reached for their guns.
Oh, damn.
There were 15 of them, and about 25 to 30 of us, remembered Sharice Henry, Eazy-E's assistant. It was a standoff. It was the most nerve-wracking thing imaginable.
Wow.
No one pulled the trigger. A bodyguard named Hollywood, who'd worked with both camps, interceded. I need you, Death Row, to turn around, drop your guns, and walk out the door, he said, in Henry's recollection. Eric, I need you to wait for 15 minutes and then take yourself home.
Mm.
Both sides complied, and the situation resolved peacefully. It shows you how intense things were back then, said Cold 187. Easily things got out of hand.
I'm gonna go ahead. I'm gonna go ahead and clear it off right there, guys. You want to go ahead and listen to the rest of it? Go ahead and check it out. But that's interesting. How I didn't know that Warren G and Cold 187 had beef like that. That's crazy. I did not know they was. I wonder are they cool now? You know, that's a good thing about maturing and getting older, man. You tend to squash beefs. Although that whole thing with TK Kirkland and Toronto, Dude's almost 60 years old, man. Y'all know these two comedians are beefing right now, but I didn't know Cold 187 from Above the Law and Warren G was beefing. That's crazy. I didn't. I It's crazy because you would have assumed that Dr. Dre was a weed smoker for years. You know what I'm saying? Especially how the Chronic is. But he wasn't smoking weed back then. Snoop introduced him to the Chronic. That's crazy, man. What do y'all think, man? Leave your comments, subscribe to Charles and Ezra. Y'all take care.